So, as I suggested, good evening to one and all again. So, here we are at the cusp of the start of the webinar. First and foremost, I would like to say a whole lot of gratitude to Global HR Forum, especially Rupesh as well as Jitin. I think Jitin was the one who was coordinating stuff. I'm so sorry if I've not taken any names, because these were the people who were in touch with me. You're doing a wonderful job. These are situations wherein we'll get connected to a lot of people and then get to hear the perspectives and things like that. So thank you so much, Global HR Forum, for this opportunity. Though humble a person I am, for the invite, for the opportunity and the space you have provided. So today, I'll just run through. Thanks, Rashmi as well for the introduction. Though a couple of things were like too prestigious for a humble person like me. Anyway, thank you for your kind words.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
So as Rashmi has suggested, I currently work with BKC Group of Companies. It is one of the leading PU manufacturers in India. If you take top 10 PU manufacturers for footwear, now we would definitely come up in the top 10 of the world as well. So we currently have close to 7,000 employees, and this is a family-run business with 2 divisions. So I take care of 1 division, wherein I'm directly responsible for administering HR agenda for almost close to 3,600 employees, which includes blue-collar workers as well. So I am currently leading OD and change vertical there. We have a big team of like 13 people, and that's how my present engagement is. Previously, I was associated with companies like Topper, which is a competitor for Byju's in the edtech space. I was with Ria Travels, which is a leading player for travel and tourism sector. I was also had a stint with Ahalya Hospital. So if you look at my experience, it spans across different industries. So I was also part of some IT engagements as well. These were like startups and IT supply chain management. I hope my voice is clear and you're able to see my screen. Is there anybody facing any difficulties with this?
You're loud and clear.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll go straight away into the presentation. So right now it is 6:10. Probably in another 30 minutes we should be able to wrap up this presentation. So how I want to take this as, it is not going to be a very big session about how to do things or things like that. I'm trying to put in my perspectives in place, and rather than Q&A at the end of the session, what I'm trying to see is perspectives coming in. It need not be always questions which come to me. It could be perspectives which you can put forward and ensue a discussion. And that's what Rupesh also has promised, like we can have a discussion at the end of it rather than questions, and we can go on and on. So that's it. And one disclaimer which I want to make here is, whatever I'm going to speak here is only my sole perspective, sole personal perspective. It has got nothing to do with the organization I represent. It has got nothing to do with the professional bodies I'm part of. It has got nothing to do with any other associations I'm part of. So this is purely a personal perspective, and no, you can take it like that. So let's head straight away. So for the last 3 months, we have had a new companion, who's like minuscule in size when it compares to the physical presence, but who has got a great amount of impact. Probably we should be able to be as HR professionals, we all should be able to learn something from this person, because from this virulent virus, because it is not the size or the magnitude that matters. It is always the impact that matters. So we have had a lot of changes just because of this uninvited guest which came in. Our birds or our airplanes or commute is not happening. Our planes are not flying. Our streets, which are usually being represented by Homo sapiens or the human beings like us, are being taken over by other guests. We see a lot of past things coming and making a winning presence in the presence as we speak, presently in vogue. Yesterday I was told that this particular series of Ramayana, which was like in the backburner for the Doordarshan for almost a lot amount of years, and probably I must have seen this when I was a school kid, but now that is broken all world records, and it is with regard to the world viewership. So past is now coming into the present. We now have a new poster child for women empowerment, which is nobody else but our own Shailaja teacher. something which come up out of a surprise, like some medicine which was usually treated as a malarial drug, which did not have any kind of value or clout when it comes to developed countries, is now the most sought after medicine. So when you look at how COVID has impacted, if you look at it, everything has gone for a toss. Our projections, our estimations, everything has gone for a toss. Things of the past has come back. Something which was not really important suddenly becomes important. Complexity is increasing. A small state like Kerala, wherein you have we have a small government and a very and the Minister of Health, who used to look after small state of affairs, is now one of the persons to look after from the world. So what I'm trying to put in perspective is COVID as such has brought in a lot of difference, a shift in perspectives. Look at which, like, our ways of workings have changed. Now we are relaxed. So for some people, sitting at home is clearly up. For some others, it is not really up to the mark. But now our ways of looking at our own workings have changed. So this suddenly brings us as HR professionals into a state of alarming state of affairs. Now, I have purposefully put this slide on a very grainy background. Why? Because the future doesn't look very focusing. I wouldn't say promising. We don't have a focus. It's grainy. Our eyes are our visions are blurred. So as HR professionals, our visions are blurred, and we are getting a lot of surprises and perspectives from different scenarios. So now, how do we as HR professionals respond to this change? So now that would be the quest of our discussion in the next 20 to 30 minutes. So this is my introductory pitch. I think I have put things in perspective. Any questions or anything which you want to put it across, Rashmi?
No, Jerry, you can continue.
You see your voice, my voice, and my slides.
No, everything is clear. Yes, everything is clear.
I kind of see a mark on the screen. For me, I don't know whether it is coming for others. For my slides, there is a slight picture mark, something like what you have drawn or something. I don't know.
Yes.
That is only in obstruction I see here, but that's okay. I'm just giving you a feedback from my side. Okay. So now our quest for a discussion for the next 20, 30 minutes is the 7 roles which we as HR professionals will be handling in the post-COVID scenario. So before I actually go into this, Rashmi, do we have option where I can give you a link and ask the participants to cast their vote or something? Because I can put it across on the chat box, and if people can share their it's a multiple choice question. And so the link will be shared in the chat box, and if you can ask people to actually respond to it.
I need to check that one. I need to check that.
I don't, because I don't see the chat option here.
I'm not sure, Jerry, whether that option is enabled for this.
No problem. That's not, I just wanted to make it interactive. So I had actually put up a poll, something like this, but now let me ask you one question. So this was a question which I had put up. So in organizations, which department is seen as the Jenny from the lamp? Like, say, you all might have heard about, the Arabian Nights stories when the Jenny comes out of the lamp and it obeys the master, right? So whatever job a master gives, the Jenny is supposed to do. Now, I wanted to actually take a call from the poll, but ideally, if you don't have a provisions, most times the answer would be this. HR is supposed to do a lot of roles. Whether HR likes it or not, HR is supposed to do a lot of work, from minuscule roles to very strategic roles. So in the post-COVID scenario also, we'll still continue to be the Jenny from the lamp. We'll be involving with a lot of stuff, right from administrative tasks to employee experiences to talent management to strategic business partnering. All those kind of roles we'll be doing. But how would it be different from the previous scenarios? So let's head straight away to the 7 roles. The first role which we all will have to ensue in the days to come will be that of a hybridizer. So when I say hybridizer, what does it mean? Hybrid means what? It's a collection of 2 things, right? So how you put 2 perspectives into one. So some of the hybridizing things will be like, how you maintain the employee and employer perspectives in pitch. right? If you talk about, you are supposed to, we are hearing a lot of discussions about bringing human back to human resources, becoming more human in human resources. How do we tackle employee experiences, employee engagements, all those kind of scenarios on one side of the strata, and on the other side you have the employer. Now, let's put things into perspective. One contentious bone of contention which we are trying to we are all facing right now is, the employer says the business is affected, but the employee says, we are sitting at home, we are doing jobs, so why don't we get our salaries on time? But the employer says, business is affected, my volumes have come down, I'm not able to operate, so either it should be a deferment of payment or there should be a salary cut. I don't know how many industries would be facing it, but there are some industries which are hit very badly, especially in manufacturing. One, tour and travels, where no travels are happening, all this. So how do you as an HR professional bridge this gap? How do you do this balancing act? How do you apply your trade-offs? So that hybridization is one thing. See, this is one example of hybridization, how you as an HR professional has to think in a hybrid manner. So your role as a hybridizer would mean merging these two and making the way forward. Another second way in the hybridization thing would be among and alone, because now we are hearing a lot of stuff about telecommuting, work from home options, so remote teams, distributed teams, all those kind of things. So you have, it is also said that if you have at least one team member who's on a telecommunic mode, if it is working from home, you're supposed to be in a distributed team. And you can also have a different scenario wherein you are the manager and you are in a different location, your team is distributed somewhere else. So this brings in a whole load of different perspectives about how you think, because 20% of the team is in the office, 80% is in a different location. So how do you bridge the gap between? So as far as people who are sitting in homes, for them it is, they're part of the group but they're still not part of the group, so it is among them but alone. So how do you bring in these perspectives and guide these people to march towards your organizational strategies? Also, when you put on the HR hat, among and alone also means you have to be among your employees and employer, but you also have to be alone as an HR and start thinking only with the HR hat, trying to figure out what is the way forward. There are two different perspectives here in place. One is the employer perspective, one is the employee perspective. Both of them are coming and scratching your brains, but you have to think alone, you have to stand alone and think straight, and then try to bring out this core agenda which will take your organization forward. Another thing is cost is going to be affected. The volumes are going to be affected. Naturally, you don't have a hell lot of money you don't have truckloads of money wherein you can operate any of your affairs, be it employee engagement or anything for that matter, talent. So you are going to be on a shoestring budget. So how do you create impact? Be it employee engagement. Probably if you had a budget for employee engagement till today, till before COVID, like say BC, as is the norm now. Now, when you're transgressing that limit to the new normal, you might not have a big budget to run things around. So now how are you going to manage it? No, probably if you had a big budget, you would have taken your team to an outing. It could be Simla, it could be Sri Lanka, it could be anywhere else, right? But now you're going to operate on a shoestring budget. How do you make your people engaged? Bring it to the talent acquisition perspective. When you had a hiring budget, now hiring budgets are going to come down. But then how do you make sure that you have the best of people coming on board? Again, how do you hybridize these two differently polarized situations? Talent management and talent experience, because see, no matter what happens, your hiring managers or your organizational leaders are not going to say, you know what, we don't have budgets, we don't have much money with us, so let's look at some mediocre candidates. Let's look at the second level of candidates. We don't want really great candidates. No, nobody's going to tell you that. Every hiring manager wants the same amount of commitment, same quality of the talent coming in, but at a reduced cost. So now again, you are in trouble. As an HR person, you are in trouble. How do you manage the experience of the incoming candidate? How do you manage the expectation of your manager when you're on a shoestring budget? So these are some of, so again, learning and performance. These were like twin brothers. So till time, probably learning was aiding performance, right? So in order to perform better, you wanted to have some learning and development activities. So you had a learning and development budget. You were running programs. Then you were trying to map what is the impact of your learning and development initiatives with regard to your performance. Right now, things are reversing. If you need to perform, you have to learn something. So for example, let's look at Zoom. Let's look at how we interact right now. Now, some of these companies might have had a huge amount of trouble bringing in this baby boomers or people who are not used to technology to use Zoom, or any kind of online platform for that matter. So learning became important there, not because it is aiding performance. In order to perform, you have to learn. So now, how do you aid? How do you bring hybridize these two scenarios? So that is how we say these are the first role as would be, as a hybridizer. How you have two different perspectives. How do you align it and go forward? So these are some of the examples which can be thought about. Second role you will have to play is that of an orienter. Now there has been we have been struck a hard blow from the back. It was a kind of a sucker punch which we all suffered. We did not expect this to go into such kind of a gargantuan situation. But now we have been affected. We are marching towards what they call it as the new normal. But when you have the new normal, a lot of things have to be oriented for the workforce, for the organization, for your teams, everything. So what kind of a role will you be able to play as an orienter? Let's look at some examples. Our offices are not going to be the same again. We might have a lean population working in our offices. Probably we'll have to have a lot of safe distancing norms, or probably the way in which we dress ourselves to office, the way in which we conduct will be different. Maybe you have a very skeleton team of managers sitting in your office, and your other people are working from home. A lot of things are going to change when the office is. So is your employee strength, or is the organization as such, even which includes your managers or your management, are they equipped to identify the obstacles, and do they have a strategy to manage our new offices? Our meetings are not going to be the same again now. See, the whole point which I wanted to actually have that Mentimeter poll here was because that's how things are going to have. Because when usually in our meetings, when we wanted to decide on things, when we would say, okay, there are 20 people here, how many of you agree? Probably we would raise our hands. Now we cannot raise our hands because we are not all sitting in the same location. Of course, yes, there's a digital raise of hands on Zoom. I'm not talking in a literal sense, but still. So now all these opinion polls coming into the play, all these kind of digital technologies are coming into the place. Our meetings are not going to be different. Meetings are not going to be the same. It is going to be different. So this is another example. So whether you are equipped, whether your employee base or your management base is equipped, or do they have an understanding about the do's and don'ts of meetings? Probably you might have all read it in the newspapers or watched on tele, like one of the Supreme Court judges actually appearing for a case with his vest on, not even a t-shirt, with his vest on, and he was kind of reprimanded. He was shown the door or something like that. So why? Because otherwise, I was actually having a webinar on NIPM, wherein a speaker called Kavi Arasu came and gave us a big lecture on things about how to distribute teams and all. There he was mentioning, probably in the evening when there was a meeting, the employee was having a mug of beer in his hands. So that became a big issue. So the employee's perspective was, it's after office hours. I usually have a drink at the end of the day on a Friday evening. But then, and again, this call was supposed to be not a video call, but I was asked to come on a video call. So I didn't know that this is. So that is his kind of legitimacy. But as far as the organization looks at it, no, this person doesn't have the etiquettes of attending meetings. So now our meetings are going for a toss. Our meetings are going to change. So are we orienting our workforce to actually embrace this change? Water cooler grapevine is a gone case now. Now, wherein you go have your freewheeling chats, a lot of discussions happening about current affairs, politics, rumors, film discussions. This was one area where all the stress busting used to happen. Now the anxieties used to go for a toss with your water cooler chit chats. Now that is gone. Yesterday, last day, I was actually having an interaction with an international speaker, and she was mentioning, when she takes her team meetings, she usually puts a virtual background on her this thing. What is that? Zoom meetings. So on the virtual background, if she wants to have to this, she usually has a water cooler on the background, so that all these fun kind of discussions happen. At least she's trying to make sure that her team doesn't miss out all those ethos, all those office cultures. So now, do we have do we have our people enabled? Do we have we got an orientation from our people on this? So that's another role which you'll have to play as that of an orienter. uh, Job interviews. Last day I was somebody was posting something related to what are the 5, 6, 7 tips of having, attending a job interview. And one of the first points was how to handshake. What is the importance of a handshake in a job interview? So I said, boss, this is not going to happen again, because half of the interviews are going online these days, because now your handshake and your responses from how good a firm a handshake is gone. You cannot have a handshake these days. Probably you can say hi on your online accounts. So, but now when you have your job interviews in place, does your candidate know what are the etiquettes of an online job interview? Does your hiring manager know what are the etiquettes? How would it think, if you have the wrong set of background, you have a cluttered office environment, and you're trying to interview a candidate, what kind of an impression does the organization portray for itself? So are we orienting our managers? Are we orienting our job workforce? As recruiters, you might, rather than just kind of forwarding resumes or having initial talks, maybe you have to pitch in this content with your candidates from now on. Like, these are the do's and don'ts of having an online interview. This is the kind of dress you have to come up with. So simple things it may feel, but which will have a huge impact. So the second role I was talking about, initially we said how we would hybridize things. Now on the second part, we are talking about how to have orientation for people. Okay. Our processes, and the same, one point I missed out here was the process. All our processes are going to change. All our processes, we discussed some of the processes: talent acquisition, the kind of meetings we are going to have, probably your reward and recognitions. Now, if you were in an office environment, probably if you have a job well, then probably your manager can come out of the office, call up a team huddle, just give a pat on the back of the employee, and which keeps himself motivated. That's gone now, because you don't have people, all the people coming around. You have half of the population sitting at home, and then again it is on a digital platform. So what is the kind of effect or impact it will be having? So processes are going up for it. How do we orient our people to embrace all these changes? So your second role, first was hybridization, second is that of an orienter. The third role is that of an enabler. Okay, so what do you want? See, you have to, some of the points which you have to think about it, push them beyond the box, because people who have been used thinking about in one pattern has now got to think beyond. Enable them to be outside the purview of things. I would say, not far from here, you as HR professionals will start hearing complaints about really good managers. I'm 100% sure of this thing happening in the very near future, right? Because the kind of dynamics you require to manage a co-located team sitting inside an office is totally different from how you manage a team which is distributed and remotely working. Now, maybe a manager who was doing a pretty decent job with his teammates would now run into a lot of trouble. So ask them to be outside the boxes. Maybe a lot of, some of your thought processes has to go, some of your mindsets have to push them to think beyond the box. So how do you enable them to push them? Maybe probably ask them to do some courses online, watch videos, and run your training programs, all those kind of things. Second thing would be work-life balance. So this is now in perspective more ever than not. Because see, here also there are two perspectives. Employer might be thinking, no, come on, you have a relaxed environment now. My employees have a relaxed environment. They don't have to commute to office. They don't have to have any other hassles of the office. They can sit at their home at the comfort zones, and they can work, and then probably my productivity will be higher. But now, when you think about an office and an employee perspective, things are polarized. Now, I had to actually chase my 4-year-old kid 4 times from here just to have this webinar being attended without any hassles. So that is the kind of situation which employers, they might not have an internet connection, which is really great. They might not have, they would be thinking, I'm using a lot of my personal stuff, my electricity bills are going to have a cost because I'm using my laptops, my AC is working. So, and again, for a lot of people, coming to office was a stress buster. Probably getting away from a lot of situations from home, anxiety. When you're at office, you don't have to think about it. But now, the work life is also going for a toss. So if you have distributed teams and if you have different scenarios coming up, how are you actually going to enable the work-life balance for your employees in the new normal? So that is another situation as an enabler you'll have to. Again, now, redirection. So probably, as we said, across industries, across the globe, a lot of jobs are being cut. Lots of job evaluations are being done. Job analysis is being done. Your job descriptions are being redrafted. So now you might need to have situations wherein you have to redirect your people to different other realms of management, different other realms of jobs which they might not have thought about. Probably, I don't know whether somebody would believe if I say this is an actual story. I was actually talking to one of these, somebody was actually talking to me on LinkedIn. He's an HR professional from Cochin and signed in for Power. And this chap was asking me, is there any jobs which is up for grabs in HR? So I said, what's happening? Are you trying to move out? He said, I'm forced to move out because now the company has asked me to do sales jobs as well. So 75% of my time would be revolving around HR activities, and that too on specific days, because when there is recruitment or when there is payroll, I'll have to don the hat of an HR. On other cases, I'll have to do sales as well. So that is not up for me. So I'm trying to move out. Just a moment. Oh, okay. Rashmi, I see some. Is there any chats or something which are coming up? Because I see a yellow button which is popping up in my screen.
No, Jerry.
All
As of
good.
now, there is no question.
All good.
Jerry, this is going good. No problem. You can continue. I think, Jerry, we're not able to hear you now. Not sure.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So when we talk about redirecting people, do we have the right set of assessment tools, or is it like we are telling them today you're sitting in marketing, we don't have a job in marketing now, we're going to put you in sales, or you have in an operations now, we don't have a person, we don't have a dedicated slot allotted for an operations person. Why don't you go and sit in logistics? Is it how you're going to manage it, or do we have an assessment mechanism? Do we have a competency map? Are we putting the assessments correct in place? Are we directing the right horses for the right race? So how do you enable all these things in redirecting people? That is that is one of the enabler roles you'll have to do. Another thing would be, come what may, you say you like it or not, you say it or not, you feel it or not, probably there are a lot of job cuts which are going to happen. So there would be job cuts across the grades, maybe junior level management people, very senior people. So these are people who have always given you something for the organization's benefits. So now how do you get rid of them? Pave their ways. Now you also have to think as an outplacement person. So how do you, when you decide that somebody has to go off from your roles, how do you have a smooth transition in place? Probably think about it. How many of your senior management people, or anybody for that matter, how many of our employees know how to write a resume? How many of our people know what is the impact of a LinkedIn account in job hunt? How many of our people know how to get noticed on LinkedIn? How many of our people know how to be attending interviews? So can we run programs like that? Can we enable the transition for a different space in such a manner that you're talking to your employees and telling, you know what, we don't have a position for you, but this is how we are going to do it. We're going to do it very royally. We're going to assist you. We're going to enable you for your job hunts. So these are set of things which you have to do. are we able to do that? So initially we said when you redirect people, we not have assessments. Now when we cannot redirect people, we are forced to actually let them down. How do we actually know? This brings back the whole discussion to bringing human back to human resources, or sometimes being more human and human resources. So that's how you pave your way and become an enabler. So currently we kind of discussed three things. So the topic was 7, and we'll be getting into other scenarios pretty fast. So 3, 1 we said hybridize, second is orient, third is enable. Now comes your very important role of being an inspirer or a motivator. So here, when you are an inspirer or motivator, there are 2 roles you'll have to play: one for the employees, one for the employers. Okay, so let's look at how you motivate or inspire your employers as such. Probably reverse mentoring. So, most of you might have heard about what reverse mentoring is. You have to actually talk to your seniors. You have to talk to the people, your entrepreneurs, your management, and say, you know what, we need to actually relook at the way we are doing things. Maybe it is about handling people, maybe the kind of culture which we have as an organization. Because you see, you might be a culture which is really totally sales driven, you don't have any engagement activities there. The management might be from a baby boomer generation who thinks that engagement is a waste of money. Or they in that case, how do you ask them to get them motivated, so that you can tell them, you know what, we need to have a different way of looking at things. How do you reverse mentor them? So this is how you have to talk to your people and tell them, this is the set of ethos which we have been practicing, but this is how you have to look at it. So that is one way of inspiring people, inspiring your management or your workforce. Second is, how do you inspire your employees? So best philosophy would be evolve, as in inspire them to evolve, motivate them to evolve and to get involved. If you don't evolve, you're not going to get involved, because this is going to be a new normal. Now, probably we discussed about redirecting people from one department to other department. Now you go in and tell your marketing person, you know what, you have been doing core marketing for some now, but we are trying to move you to digital marketing. Now he says, my level of understanding for digital marketing is only 20%. Now, if he wants to get involved, he has to evolve himself. Now, what role you as an HR can play to evolve your people to involve in state of affairs? So these are the 2 roles. One is like how you manage your employers and inspire them to have a difference in thought process, difference in perspectives, and difference in mindsets. And with regard to employees, how you inspire is uh, asking them or enabling them to evolve and then get involved in the new normal. Okay. Uh, Role number 5 is that of an experience creator. Okay. How do you create experience? Employee experience. The other day I was actually listening to Rupesh talking on Best of HR forum, wherein he was talking volumes about candidate experiences. How do you engage with? It was a very brilliant talk by Rupesh. Probably people who might not have heard about it, haven't seen it. I think there is a link available on YouTube as well. Probably you can ask it from Rupesh. It was a wonderful talk on from Best of HR forum, wherein he was talking about candidate experience. I'm not limiting to candidate experience alone, the experience as such for the whole employee base. Now, when you don't have truckloads of money, when you're volume, how you need to have a philosophy, lean and humble, but impactful. Okay, you don't have money, you don't have a lot of bandwidth to do with. You don't have a lot of time bandwidth, or you don't have a lot of money bandwidth to give a very impactful positive experience during your onboarding sessions. Probably IT folks have a lot of onboarding activities which gives a lot of impact when it comes to the new hires, but now we don't have that. How do you create a positive experience by giving salary which is not up to the mark? Probably the same person, you're hiring a PHP developer, you're doing a Hadoop data analyst, you're going to hire an FMCG marketing person, you're hiring a travel consultant. But now let's assume that every job of this was getting around 40 to 45K in the market before COVID. Now it has come down to 35,000. Now how do you employ? How do you motivate them? How do you inspire them to create that positive experience? These are things you'll have to think out of the box. Now, as I said at the beginning of the session, these are things I'm just trying to give you some, sprinkle some seeds into your minds so that you can think about it and come up with strategies. You ask me what are the strategies. There is no silver bullet kind of situation. There is no panacea, or there is no magic pill which can be a one size fits all solution for all industries. But these are things which you'll have to think about. How do you create employee experiences wherein you don't have a lot of resources by your side? You don't have 50% of your employees coming to the office. So now how do you give a warm welcome to somebody who's onboarding? Now maybe my 85% of my staff are working from home. And again, the guy who's joined now, who's also working from home. Now how do you give him a warm welcome? Is Zoom enough? Is Zoom impactful, or any online platform for that matter? So how do you create experiences? So your fifth role revolves, fifth role revolves around how do you create experiences. Let's move into that of the normalizer. So we all have been hearing about new normal. What is new normal? We'll have to wait and see. A lot of things are being written about new normal. A lot of things are being spoken about new normal. But now we don't know what exactly the new normal is going to be. Whether work from home is going to stay, we never know. Whether job cuts are going to be the new normal, we never know. Whether telecommuting will be the order of the day, we don't know. But again, whatever is the new normal, we'll have to enable your workforce, your management, your organization as such to hit the new normal, right? So new normal is basically, we never know where we are heading to. We have no idea. I was actually talking to somebody on LinkedIn last day, and I said, there is a huge amount of focus being set across only for work from home. Now, when you think about when people start writing about things, they're all thinking about new normal being work from home. No, there are a lot of things, a lot of jobs which cannot have a work from home option. For example, like us, we are into manufacturing, we are into production. So I cannot send my workers home. I cannot say, okay, you know what, 2,500 of my workers will be sitting in home and making footwear for us. It cannot happen. You need to be on the assembly line. So new normal is not always about work from home. New normal is going to be a lot of things, which eventually we'll come to know. Pay cuts would be the new normal. Maybe deferred payments would be new normal. Maybe, even when you look at compliances, the government is saying, you just have to say how much you're going to pay. You don't have to pay right now. So that's going to the new normal. Okay. So, so a couple of roles which you can play as a role holder on the new normalizer thing is, now we are on the engagement side. We're all locked down. We are not actively engaged. We're at our homes. We're at the confines. So now when things get back to normal, when we are coming back to our offices, or maybe when your business as usual, BAU happens, how do you change your engagement, not physically, of your mindset? Well, I'm trapped with half the salary. I'm trapped with the poor internet connection. I'm trapped without having to meet my compatriots. I'm trapped without being able to talk to my bestie at my workplace. I cannot go out to have lunch with my team together. All caged mindsets. Now, from that cage, how do you get engagement? So, engagement to engagement. That would be one of the things which you can think about. Second thing is digital. So, I would say digital, space it, and you'll have dig it all, because right now a lot of things are going to be, there will be an increased focus on digital, because if you're not going to have whole of your population coming to offices, probably people are working at homes, you need increased collaborative tools. In office, you might have had a folder which you stack papers together. Now you might have to move to the positive with the file is like it can be passed over, right? But now you're sitting at home, maybe you'll have to embrace yourself with a spreadsheet, Google spreadsheet. or a Soho form. We never know, because I'm the custodian of the file, and I can share it with him. And again, so increasingly your digital literacy, the skill gap on the digital front is going to have a huge impact these days. People who fall behind on digital is going to be, because that is where you dig it all, right? Digital is dig it all data pertaining to your company, all data pertaining to your operations, job, everything would be digital. So digital is something which you will have to look at as the normal thing. So if you have laggards, if you have dances who are not really, or Luddites when it comes to technology. There would be people who would say, pivot table. I don't know. I just use Excel for drawing my tables. I don't know what a pivot table is. Or somebody who comes and says, VLOOKUP. No, VLOOKUP. I don't know. My friend used to say that. So if there are still people like that, these are the people who are like falling behind. So you have to ensure how your digital literacy or digital skill gap gets reduced in the new normal. I'm sorry. One increased amount of attention which has to be paid by you as an HR professional will be being a sounding board. As I said in the beginning, now you would start a lot of things coming back to you. Maybe this was the manager who did the best manager thing, got the best manager award in the last quarter. Might be now you're sitting at home as an HR professional, and then hordes of troves of complaints start coming about this manager from his own teammates, stating that we are finding it difficult to get along with this guy. Or maybe your employer comes and says, or your manager comes and says, you know what, this person was 100% on targets. He was a high potential employee for me. Now, with the work from home option, I don't see much of commitment from him. His productivity has come down. His output has gone down. Now, you need to have a patient listening to different scenarios. And then, at the start of the slides, we said among and alone. You need to be among both the spaces, and then you have to think alone as an HR professional and how to go forward. So this is one of the other things which you would have to embrace in the new normal concepts. Okay. Lastly, the seventh rule. We are running short of time, I guess. Lastly, prime mover. What does a prime mover mean? Prime mover means somebody who's very enthusiastic and takes the responsibility of end-to-end execution. So as an HR professional, your responsibility now is that of overseeing that you take the whole responsibility of your workforce management, your company's targets, what are your business perspectives, and you are the person who's going to drive this forward. So I would say HR would act as a bridge which would enable you to transgress from where we are right now, where we want to be. The gap gets filled by the HR professional. So as an HR professional, you also will have to think about different other portfolios, different levels of thinking, maybe outside the purview of things. For example, recruitment marketing. You don't have big amount of money to do your recruitment marketing right now. How do you enable yourself to do it? What are the creative? So maybe you'll have to think as a marketer now, right? As an HR professional, or a recruiter, now you have to think about a marketer. Or how do you engage with your people so that how do you bridge the gap between the employee and the employer? Or how do you make sure that people who are distributed teams working in remote locations get along together? All these kind of things. So HR is now going to act as a bridge. So as we discussed, we would say we kind of discussed 7 scenarios. We said about hybridizers uh, uh, who would bring in an amalgam between 2 different perspectives. We would be orienters, making people to understand what the new situations are and going to orient them to get into the new situations, enable them to think from different perspectives, go out of their boxes and start thinking in ways they have not thought about before, inspire them to learn new things, inspire them to come involve through evolving, Probably you have to evolve from a cocoon to the butterfly, which we have seen in the slides. Okay. Experience creators, how do you create the positive experiences? That is sine qua non for all our processes. How do you normalize people so that people are equipped to hit the new normal and output levels? And how do you take the responsibility of being a prime mover of situations? So these are the 7 roles. So if you kind of rearrange the 7 roles, you would have something like this. You will have PHOENIX, which means Phoenix. So now our role as an HR is now changing from being a very minuscule player to that of a phoenix who can rise from the ashes. So I presume like everybody knows about how whatever the imaginary phoenix is. Phoenix is a bird which kind of rises from the ashes. I know I'm explaining. I know you guys know about it, but just in case if there are people who are still figuring out what is this guy talking about. So our role now is that of a Phoenix HR. Okay. So this is Ram Emanuel. He's quite famous for one of these statements. You never let a serious crisis go out of waste. And what I mean by that is it's an opportunity to do things you think you could not do before. So Ram Emanuel was a very big US politician. He was part of the Barack Obama campaign. He was part of the United States Capitol Hill. So this is one of the statements. So I would say, we should get imbibed by what he has said. Never let a serious crisis go out of waste. We have been in a crisis situation, but now HR is being seen in a different picture. Now more than ever, HR is being given value by both employees and employers, because I get at least 2-3 calls, which takes away neatly some 4-5 hours of mine on TV, on telecalls, as well as Zoom meetings. So now the impact you're able to make as an HR professional, the value you're getting as as an HR professional is more. So I would say, post COVID, try to get into the 7 roles which we had discussed, and then kind of, create a positive experience. So out of it. So how do we do it? So when you go back after the discussion, as I said in the beginning, these are not silver bullets I'm trying to give you. These are not magic pills that I'm trying to give you. I'm just trying to give you a perspective how we would be able to tide over this crisis. So I would say, put it in a matrix. On x-axis, on y-axis, you would say you will have all the roles being listed. Okay, so you have on the y-axis, you have prime mover, hybridizer, orienter, enabler, normalizer, inspirer, and experience creator, which would be the 7 roles which we discussed, which is the Phoenix roles. And then on the x-axis, you would have your processes. Let's say talent acquisition. Then you have your onboarding, and likewise you can go, anything, performance management, performance tooling, your discussions, counseling, grievance redressals, employee relations, anything for that matter, till about your exit. So your metrics is now ready. Now think about it. So let's take talent acquisition as such. As a hybridizer, what am I going to do in talent acquisition? How do you make sure I am aligning both my employee and employer to be on the same page on my talent acquisition strategy? Or as an inspirer, what am I going to do with my talent acquisition? How do I inspire people to join us when our salaries are not comparable to the standards? How do I inspire my hiring manager to go out of the box and then make a positive candidate experience, which will aid my talent acquisition strategy? So likewise, you take one column, which is like the talent acquisition, and then you try to look at the different, and so in talent acquisition, on each of the roles, you'll have different strategies. So you do this, and probably you will have your your whole HR strategy for your organization. These are just simple thoughts which I'm trying to give it to you. This is up to you to decide or improvise and things like this. So now you have, when the new normal hits, as I said, we don't know what the new normal is going to be, but let's hope that new normal is going to be totally different from what we all have experienced in the past. I know there are people who have experienced the 2008 crisis, probably people like Rupesh and other seniors who have experienced the 2008 crisis. There are people whom we can learn from. I was just starting my job when the crisis happened. And then the kind of differences which happened after that, that became the new normal. So likewise, when the new normal hits, the choice is yours. Do you want to actually go back and do the stuff which you were doing before corona or before covid? Do you want to be in the same state of HR strategy which you are adopting in your organizations, or do you want to change? So what is your identity? What identity do you want to portray as an HR professionals? How do you enable your employees? How do you enable and how do you make your value addition to your organization and by and large to the society? So your identity matters. Okay, so I'll just give you some thought processes. Since we said about phoenix, which is a bird, I thought I'll bring in some other analogy from the birds as well before I wrap up the show. So do you want to go back to be a bat? Do you want to go back to do back to administrative tasks? Do you want to be a bat going back to doing attendance, Excel sheets, and all other administrative activities, payroll, and all this kind of? Do you want to do back? Do you want to be back doing all those administrative tasks? Another thing is, do you want to be a parrot? Somebody who's permanently assisting all other resources with repetition-oriented tasks. So you're running your performance cycles. You send emails. You're populating data. You're running all this kind of things on a repetitive fashion. You're doing your ESI and PFs. They're all repetition oriented. You want to be a parrot. Third would be, there are set of people, set of HR professionals who are always seen as hovering around and trying to meddle into all state of affairs of employees. Those are the kites, known for invoking troubles everywhere. You see two people talking, and there are some sort of HR professionals being seen, okay, this guy is kind of clear ratio. Do you want to be seen like a kite, would be known for invoking troubles everywhere? Or do you want to be a sparrow, who's like a simple, powerless admin resource for recruiting and other odd works? So the choice lies with you now. Or you want to be a Phoenix HR? Do you want to be a prime mover, hybridizer? You want to be an orienter, enabler, normalizer, inspirer, and an experience creator? The question is with you. I raise my case here. Thank you so much for all the Phoenix HRs who have joined here. Thank you so much. And now,
Thank you, Jerry. Before Rashmi, I'll take.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So.
I hear a lot of voices.
Yeah, others can go on mute. Those who are not talking, I would request others to go on mute. So, Jerry, definitely, I would. Rashmi, you have to allow me to talk 1 minute after the question and answer session, because I want to talk about the session really. So, yeah, over to the question and answer session, please. If you have specific questions, I've seen lots of chats coming up. Jerry, I think you have lots of questions now.
Is it because I am not able to see the chats because
yeah, you will definitely. So over to the people who have questions, please.
So Jerry, we have one question in the comment box from Ramya.
Ramya, from which company? Ramya Ravi?
Yes, Ramya Ravi, yes.
Okay.
So she has asked, it's a statement that she has mentioned, TCS has decided to make 75% of its employees to work from home post-COVID.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what's the kind of psychological impacts for an employee who has a permanent work from home, maybe going to office, say, once in a month or so? The statement
so what is the psychological impact it is going to create? See,
for the employee, yes.
Yeah. So
Jerry, I'll add on. So to speak frankly, as in for the past 1.5 months, me and my entire team has been working from home. And we all are like, when is office starting and when are we going back?
No, same here, don't worry.
Correct. It gets depressing after a while, and even for meetings, you're on the computer and it's like 8-10 hours at a stretch that you're in front of the computer. Whereas in office, you're at least, even at least in meetings, you go out, you move around, you meet people. So that difference is there.
Yeah. So answering that question, one thing I would say is, being in specifically answering to the TCS question, as far as TCS is concerned, since they operate in the IT sector, probably the work from home options are quite kind of usual for them. So people, and I have my sister working for TCS. A lot of times they have work from home options as well. But then again, coming back to Ramya's specific question of how the impact it is going to have. See, I'll tell you. My meetings now run till about 9 o'clock, 10 in the evenings. So because in a normal scenario, probably when you are at office from 9 to 6 and you never get out of office at 6, probably at 6:30, 7:30, at least after that you have some leeway till about the next morning. Maybe you'll have emails coming in, you'll have WhatsApp chats, at least you which can be deferred till the morning, or maybe you can answer it. Okay, at least the calls are not there. But now in this present situations, what is happening is there is nothing like 9 to 6. Evening meetings can happen at any point in time. Probably at around 9 o'clock, somebody would give a call and say, yeah, I would like to have you work on the final draft, and then probably let's connect at 10:30 in the evening. So these kind of things are definitely going to create imbalances, and again, the kind of commitment people can put in forward sitting at homes, and when you have kids around, when you have a poor internet connection, when you have to look at household things, especially when it comes to women. Probably you will have to cook, you'll have to raise kids, you have parents around. This is definitely going to impact the way in which we work and the kind of output which we deliver. So this is what I was kind of mentioning about, probably HR as a in the inspirer part we were talking about, or the new normalism part we were talking about, how you have to be a sounding board. Probably there would be a lot of things which are coming in, and I definitely would say there would be we also need to have some kind of strategies in place as far as our employee engagements are concerned. Probably a tie-up with a counseling center or something would do. Because as HR professionals, some of us are maybe MSc psychologists or something who can do counselings and all. But I would say, if companies can tie up with different counseling specialists, and then they can have a 1 hour or 2 hour time window so that people can pay from the company, and have their situations vented out, that would be good. That's what I would feel. And I would totally go on the dot with, spot on with Ramya, that it is definitely going to impact the emotional quotient of a lot of people. Yeah, Rashmi.
Thanks, Jerry.
Yeah. Any other questions? Hello?
Yeah, see, I can actually read out a few of the questions. Rashmi, you would like to take this questions? Can you read the questions? The other questions
Yes,
you have?
yes. So sorry, I was on mute. Yeah.
Oh, no problem.
So we have one question from Jitin. So data become key for decision making now across organizations. So
Okay.
how do you see HR's role for analytics? Is what his question is.
No wonder it has come from Jitin. It should be Jitin Chakalkal, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so Jitin Chakalkal is a very, very strong member of the HR team for ULTS, which is a very, very big IT company operating from Calicut. So no wonder, this technical or data question has come from Jitin. Specifically answering to it is, be it now or before, data analytics and business analytics was going to be a big impact maker when it comes to HR. Okay, so we were all talking about HR analytics at play, and your decisions are going to be based on analytics now. So even before COVID also, we are all that's what I said. If you don't, if you're not digital, because now everything is like on the digital space. Digital means what, as I said, it is digital. Everything is going to be analytically managed. So specifically answering to Jitin's question, HR analytics is going to be a key driver of the future, key mover of how decisions are being made. And all your talent, all your human resource strategy is now going to be based on analytics.
Yeah, right, Jerry. I mean, shall I add? Is it fine for Global HR Forum?
Yes, sure, sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, good that such a presentation has come up. Neatly crafted presentation, Jerry. So I was, I mean, you said it right. I mean, I was actually trying to add. You have really covered the Phoenix well. I was just trying to add, I mean, few more thoughts, maybe from the IT perspective. As Remya also asked, I think many of us are known well. Uh, so in that, on Remya's point, just as a supporting statement to Jerry, see, I feel, I mean, apart from the Phoenix strengths that we have told, I mean, being a psychologist will be a great role for HR in the new normal, is what
Okay.
I feel.
Okay.
Also, two more thing. I mean, you have covered like I mean digital. That means digital. I feel. I mean, see, in our organization, just sharing for the info, where we have actually created a role, namely HR tech. Okay, so wherein apart from the digital knowledge, actually now the HR team has is in sole responsibility for the not sole responsibility, but I would say a good enabler. I mean, you have covered it as enabler, where it will be like a digital transformer. Digital transformer is
Transformer.
going to be one of the role of HR, where you should, I mean, HR team should be able to go back and tell to the organization or to the employer saying that these tools are right fit for so and so problem addressing, and this will bring up so and so efficiency. And one more thing which in line with the question you have addressed it, that is I see data analyst. I mean HR analyst, I would say. I mean we can
Yeah,
call
yeah.
to align with our profession. So HR analyst, there are specific roles in HR team, namely HR tech enabler and HR analyst now, which we see especially in IT. I agree, I do agree to your point mainly on the manufacturing part, but now the
No.
digital transformer or HR digital transformer and HR analyst are picking up the momentum is what I see from the IT
Yeah,
pulse.
yeah. Yes, yes,
So
yes.
just adding
Uh,
this more.
yeah, I totally agree with you, Jitin. But again, see, even in manufacturing, the analytics plays a big part. Analytics do play a big part in your decision making process. And again, since you mentioned this, I was just wondering, now that we all have an HRMS specialist, HRMS specialist, or what do you call it, HR information system specialist in the organization, and now it will slowly pave its way to HR data analyst, or data analytics will be, or HR data scientist would be
Yeah.
would
That would be right then. Where I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
the
So
other one, the tech is altogether different because it
that is a
involves.
different. Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
Since I have also worked in IT, a data scientist is a different thing when it comes to big data and analytics and all. But here, when you talk about HR data, probably HR data scientist or HR data analyst or something would be the new normal. Let's hope so. Probably we all will have to actually go and work it out on some MOOC courses on Coursera or Udemy, and try to become some HR data scientists as well in the days to come.
Yeah. Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, team.
Hey, Jerry, I think we are running short of time, but yeah, we can have one question from Vaishak. So, will there be any role changes in HR with regarding to handling the workman category?
Workman, as in, can he be specific about what he meant by workman? Is it blue collar workers he's referring to, or
During the working class, I mean, Jerry, can you hear
blue
me?
blue collar, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
So what is your question? Is there any specific change of roles?
Role changes in HR handling the factory workers. I mean, exactly.
See, definitely. Why? Because see, I would say not to an extent. We spoke about this enabler or an orienter and digital and all. Maybe probably all of those might not be applicable to factory workforce. But again, see, look at the way in which the factory workers work is being. The kind of plight which they are running to. Half we have close to 15 factories, and most of these migrant laborers and other people are still unable to go to their homes right now. So they are all stuck up in Kerala or different places of India. And there, the kind of, not just for us, for almost all manufacturing sectors across India, So their HR now, probably when you look at somebody who's doing an employer relations thing, they might be administering an ESI or a PF, or maybe that of statutory compliances. Now this person will have to be a motivator. Go talk to, now they are probably on the show floor itself. You're kind of having a business partner there, because this is the person who goes and talks to them, motivates them, inspires them, keep them active and engaged, addresses their problems, becomes a key input point for the decisions and things like that for the management. So a lot of changes have come in the way even a factory HR works. That's what I would feel from my experience.
Okay.
Thanks, Jerry.
So I would like to.
Who's it? Let the questions come, and probably perspectives also come in. When that's the whole point of having this discussion.
Okay, if there is no more questions, probably I would like to take 30 seconds, Jerry. Rupesh here. You covered the session very well. Initial 5-10 minutes, it was really, I'm talking from my perspective, it was a little heavy subject for me where I could not relate. But after 20 minutes, which means the moment you showed us that, the metrics, you showed us the Phoenix and you showed us the metrics, how to connect that. It's something like normally I attend this design thinking workshops. They say it is connecting dots, right? So you initially, before that, it was dots for me. Then later you connected all the dots, then everything is clear. And after the metrics, little more examples of Sparrow and Parrot. I'm very sure that all the 40 plus HRs who are here don't want to be a Sparrow or Parrot, and they would definitely a Phoenix. Yeah. So for me personally, it is a wonderful session. All the subjects, everything was covered properly, and it was delivered really, really well. Why I want to tell you is probably you might get a feedback for the session a little later, or sometimes you might not get when you talk in a forum. But however, I want to tell in front of everybody that session is very, very good because it gives lots of pressure for the speaker. So I wanted one person can talk. Benefit of time, we are already crossed the time, but I would suggest one person who would like to say about the session. Yes, please go ahead and talk. And meanwhile, Jerry, for information, if you see the chat box, there are lots of more than 10-15 people have told the session is very, very, very good. Yeah, so go ahead. One person can talk about the session if in case you would like to talk. Else, probably Rashmi can do the final conclusion. If anybody can talk, one person, please.
Hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm Shweta. So I would. This is not a question from my side, but this is basically a feedback from my side. So this was such a wonderful session. For a student like me, the way you put in perspectives, that was a very catchy thing. What I would like to say, and what I would also like to add is that COVID or any other unfortunate situations that hit our economy or the mankind is not something that we have to worry on a long term, because if we look at all those depressions of 1930s or the recessions that have hit all over this world, we can see that we all have emerged very much even from such a bad stage. So what I would say, or from my perspective, what I would say is that maybe this new normal could be something that we can hold upon, and we can say proudly that we all have come up from such a hard situation also. And all those concepts you have said, it's a brilliant way of explaining things, and a very catchy kind of slides that you have put in. So that's my feedback for you. It was such a wonderful session. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Shweta.
Yeah, Rashmi, over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Rupesh. So, Jerry, it was a very wonderful session. You have clearly categorized, all the different situations that we are currently going through, and we have categorized into several different roles like hybridizer, orienter, enabler, inspirer, experience creator, normalizer, prime mover. It was actually a very insightful session. So thank you so much, Jerry. And I would like to thank all the participants. Even being a weekend, you all have taken time to join this session, and I hope you all had a wonderful time listening to Jerry. It was a very insightful session. Thank you so much, Jerry, and thank you, participants.
Yeah, Rashmi, just a moment. I know we are running short of time, so just in case you have had any questions and we were not able to take it up. This is I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty much active on LinkedIn, I should say. Like how Rashmi or Rupesh would know. So this is my name is like it's not a very common name, my full name. So this is my name, Jerry Abi CHITTOORAN. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn, or this is my contact number 9544792346. So I am available for WhatsApp as well as normal calls and messages on that number. So if there are people who want to actually share some perspectives or raise some questions which they were not able to do due to the paucity of time, they can have it addressed to me directly through this. And I also take this opportunity to say thanks, gratitude, and in a way congratulate Rupesh and his team, Rashmi, Jitin, Rupesh, and others who have come up with such kind of a platform for knowledge sharing. And I'm humbled to be the first speaker of this series of presentations. And I would extend all my supports for the sessions to come forth in the future. And I sincerely hope that there are more sessions like this so that we can have diverse perspectives. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Rashmi, for hosting this. Thanks, Jerry. All the best. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you all.